Hello, hello. Alrighty. This was suggested to me by somebody in the Skyhold Discord. Um, they said that it might help somebody, might let them kind of get everything situated. I mean, fuck it, man. What I'm doing here is something I have set up already. It's very easy to do, and hope it's useful to you guys. Essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the talent build used for arms and fury. If you want other resources for something like this, there's probably plenty of other videos. There is the Wowhead Guide by Archimetros for arms and fury that has all of these there as well. But for a quick video, and in the description of this video, I will put a link to each of these, or I'll put the code, the uh, the export code to each of these builds in the description, and you can just copy paste them if that works for you. All right. So first and foremost, we'll start with arms. This is going to be our pure single target build. This is the same exact shit we ran last year. There's not really any change with kind of what we're doing. It's test of might, concussive blows. You have to take sudden death because it works with our tier set, but the tier set doesn't really change anything that we're doing. This is a 1 to 2 target cleave, single target raid build that plays like it always has. Just make sure you're spending your sudden death as soon as you can most of the times because you don't want procs to overlap each other. And that's kind of it. There's not too much to say. It is kind of a shame that arms has not changed that much in terms of single target. We do take crushing force, and we take a point, and we do use slam as a filler. If you need an application of rend, you can reapply rend with thunderclap. But most of the time, we're going to be spending our off rage unless we need to dump large amounts of rage. We're going to be spending our off rage with slam because it actually does more damage than rend on application with the talent and the buffs, finally. Because you see rend does 9k, this does 16, so it's an obvious choice here with the 2 talent points. To get these talent points in Crushing Force, however, we had to sacrifice a cooldown on our Bounding Leap, but if you're in a raid scenario, the movement speed is nice, but if you're in a raid scenario and you're running with an Evoker, Time Spiral will just give you another leap anyway, so that's not big of a deal. The other thing we dropped for the second point in Crushing Force was... Actually, we didn't drop anything else, I just had a point in the second one previously from doing Reshock. So that's kind of what a single target looks like. Same as it ever was. It's kind of weird now because you're juggling sudden death procs with wanting to actually spend rage. But slam is actually a decent filler at this point, and unless you're about to overcap rage in your Colossus Smash window, you can use it to reset your overpowers. Next, we have the Mythic Plus build, which is the same thing we ran with Crushing Force, actually. This is just your standard Bladestorm build. You'll send the Bladestorm, build up Hurricane, send a big whirlwind in it with Sword of Storms and Barbaric Training Seismic. Big whirlwind, big damage. Other than that, you are spreading your dots with Cleave. It does not spread Rend. You will get some Rend spread with the tier set because it does a Thunderclap whenever you cast Execute. So trying to spread as many Rends as possible to get more chances at that Execute Cleave is probably going to be pretty good. You'll have 2 target Execute and Mortal Strike Cleave with improved sweeping strikes. And it's just the standard whirlwind or Bladestorm Hurricane build as last year. It's the same thing. You have a okay amount of AoE damage. It's just kind of middle of the road, right? Because you have an okay amount of AoE damage. You do have Execution's precision for higher health targets. You can cleave this and get some bonus effective with this in packs. This is a nice little boost to your single target damage as well. One thing to note, I did forget to mention, in the single target build for Raid, we are still taking Ignore Pain. It is not a DPS increase to use Ignore Pain. However, it does prevent a significant amount of damage, so in raid scenarios where you're going to be taking a lot of damage, it will be nice to use. I do believe that the rage spent on Ignore Pain still does affect your Tactician proc, so that is something that is still nice, but it will be... Basically, in raid, normally, if you don't die to a hit, your healers can get you back up from it, right? So you don't really need the throughput healing of Fueled by Violence, which doesn't heal that much compared to damage reduction potential. And because you're playing arms instead of fury, you're going to have one two-hander instead of two two-handers. So the amount of stamina you have is going to be lower. Well, like I said, here's the Bladestorm build. You spread your deep wounds with cleave. You spend your sudden deaths, Bladestorm in big packs. That is what it is. This one is actually somewhat recent, and actually works well because of the slam buffs, and we're running Crushing Force for it. But essentially, what you're doing here is it's collateral damage, instead of Sword of Storms, and essentially you're just spamming the shit out of Whirlwind. You're getting a lot of value from Sweeping Strikes. Sweeping Strikes is also sending another slam into actually here. If you're actually running Sweeping Strikes, if you hit 2 targets, Slam is going to... You're not only going to do Whirlwind damage to everything in the pack, you're also going to slam the primary and secondary target. You're building up and spending a lot of rage for your Test of Might windows, just because you're in big packs and you're just spinning with Whirlwind, getting slams in, getting Whirlwinds in. It's actually... I haven't played it myself yet, but it looks kind of interesting and seems kind of fun. Actually, it is... This build specifically is pretty strong for just big AoE, right? If you're gonna do, like, think about like your Brackenhide Hollows, where it's just tons of AoE all the time. You would have even pretty good value on an AoE boss. Any dungeons that have multiple bosses, one of them that I'm not going to take credit for, I think that was linked in the Archimetros Wowhead guide, was the witches in Waycrest Manor, the 3 witch boss. You can get a good amount of value from being able to hit multiple targets, get your slams in for free, that kind of thing. So this is an interesting build. I do want to kind of test the waters and play around with it, because it does seem kind of fun, just slamming Whirlwind over and over again. And Fervor of Battle is if you hit 2 or more targets, it slams your primary target, which you can improve Sweeping Strikes. And because we're taking the improved Slam and Crushing Force, it does a lot of damage. So it might be interesting. It might be good. So we'll have to see. But those are the 3 builds. I will have the description for you. Fury has a bit more variation, especially since our tier set actually changes what we're playing with the Odin's Fury, right? There's actually a pretty significant playstyle difference. So first and foremost, this is what we're currently running, right? You can run this for all content. If you wanted to focus more on PvE, you could take points out of Intimidating Shout and Stormbolt and put them elsewhere. This is basically our current tier set. While you have your current tier set, you're basically going to be running this. This is mainly set up for Mythic Plus, right? It's what we've been running, what we already have. It's good, right? Here's where it gets not really interesting, but here is what we'll be running for like AoE and basically kind of all content. Once again, if you're doing pure PvE, you can get rid of Stormbolt and Intimidating Shout for... you can just kind of put these wherever, right? Maybe here, maybe strikes that if it fits. But this is what our Tier 29 set, our Vault of the Incarnate set, actually was. Because the spec basically kind of plays itself, and it's pretty all around, which is kind of nice. So as we get a lot of the item level from Mythic Plus, you're going to be replacing your tier. You're going to be putting on 460 to 470 gear. That is 10 to 15 to 20 item levels higher than what you're currently equipping, and that amount of eye level difference, you're going to be wanting to run this for basically all content. I'm probably going to replace all of my gear, or hopefully replace all of my gear before I go into raid this upcoming week. If I don't, I might like hold on. I might do a sim and hold on to 2-piece for the current Rampage and Critical Strike chance of Rampage, because the 2 set's actually pretty good. It's pretty strong. But when you're essentially running your Mythic Plus, you don't have your tier set yet. You will swap when you get 2 set for your tier. But until then, you'll be running something like this. It is just our Vault of the Incarnate set. It is a all-around build that works everywhere. I actually like this build a lot. I like Vault of the Incarnates because it was one size fits all. You have Execute, you have AoE. You don't have any tier set to really buff you up and get additional power from it, but it's just overall a generally good playstyle that we right. So it is simply one build fits all for having no here. Now, when we get to at least 2-piece, the Bloodthirst Odin's Fury increases your Bloodthirst crit, right? When we get to 2-piece for your single target build, we're swapping over to Annihilator. We're swapping. Oh, the big changes here are no anger management, no Ravager, no onslaught, no points in critical thinking. I like how it's called critical thinking. That's pretty funny. But no critical thinking, just slam, right? We're warriors, we're meatheads. We do damn. We do big damn, right? But essentially what this is going to be and how it's going to play is you're building around a burst window. When with the 2-piece of your tier set, whenever you Odin's Fury, sorry, this actually should be here. My mistake. Whenever you Odin's Fury, whenever you Avatar or whenever you Odin's Fury, you get a 3-stack of a buff that lets your next Bloodthirst do additional damage and crit. It also increases the damage of your Odin's Fury by 50%. So what the build is essentially going to be is you're going to set up on a mob. Like, here's your opener, right? You're going to set up on a mob. You're going to have your potion and everything. You're going to go up to it. And because you're building around a massive burst window with Spear of Bastion, you're going to Avatar Odin's Fury. You're going to Avatar, then Odin's Fury. So you're going... I don't know if 2 of Odin's Furies stack on the same target or if they stack their damage or whatever. This is mainly for single target, so it's not going to be that big of a loss. You're going to do Avatar Odin's Fury, stack up those 6 stacks of Bloodthirst crits. You're going to Rampage to get... You're going to Rampage to change over your Bloodthirst over to Bloodbath. The change to Reckless Abandon this next tier means that you are going to have 1 Bloodthirst, or 1 empowered Bloodthirst that turns into a Bloodbath that does double the damage of the previous bonus. So essentially, you're going to charge into targets, use your cooldowns, Rampage, Spear, Bloodbath, Rampage, Bloodbath, Rampage, Bloodbath, Rampage, Bloodbath. And you're going to try and do that as much as you can while you're still in the Spear duration. The reason why we're waiting to Spear before we throw our Bloodbath is because all of these big damage buffs are stacked onto our Bloodthirst to the point where we're just gonna do a bunch of Bloodthirst and Bloodbath damage. So that's essentially what your burst window is. You set up and then you Bloodbath, Rampage, Bloodbath, Rampage, Bloodbath, Rampage. Right. That's just what you're doing. We're also running Dancing Blades because it increases your auto attack damage and speed, which works with Annihilator, and for 10 seconds. And depending on the cooldown, which would probably be around 20 to 25 seconds for Odin's Fury, there's going to be a high amount of uptime for Dancing Blades. And with having that increased attack speed and damage, we're going to be getting more rage from Annihilator with Swift Strikes as well. One notable exclusion is Slaughtering Strikes. Because compared to Raging Blow, it is increasing our Rampage damage by only 2% instead of 20%. In single target specifically, we are going to be going Vicious Contempt instead for that additional 25% bonus damage to targets who are below 35% health, because it's going to do more overall damage for us than focusing on a little bit of an additional Rampage damage, especially considering our tier set does not buff Rampage as all when our previous tier set is buffing, right? And on your bars, you can basically run the same shit. The only thing I would recommend, obviously, if Annihilator is here, you're going to be removing this and replacing Annihilator with Slam. In single target, your priority is going to be with all of these buffs, right? Over. In single target, you can see your Slam is doing almost 23k, and your Woman's doing 13k. So if you have downtime where you're waiting for enough rage to Bloodbath again with the free crit, you will be sending your Slam. Do not send your critical hit do not send your tier set bonus, your 6 stacks of Bloodthirst, right? Do not send that on just Bloodthirst. Use a Slam, use a Whirlwind, get your Rampage up, get that Bloodbath bonus, because that is a massive damage. for you, and you don't want to be wasting them. So in the middle, when you're wasting through things, you have your whirlwind, you have your slam, right? Other than that, you're just spamming bloodthirst on cooldown, rampaging whenever you can, and then so you're not overcapping rage, and then in the meantime, prioritizing slam over whirlwind. The playstyle is pretty simple. It's you can basically imagine this button as you can essentially imagine this button as Raging Blow, except your priority now goes Bloodbath, Rampage, Bloodthirst, Slam, Whirlwind. That's it. You're good. Now moving on to the last bit, which is the Mythic Plus variant of the build. In Mythic Plus, we are obviously running Roar because it is better. We are running Slaughtering Strikes in Mythic Plus specifically because getting your Rampage damage buffed and cleaved on everything is more damage than getting a little bit of bonus damage, and the amount of Bloodthirst you're actually going to be sending into enemies when they're below 35% health is way lower than something like a raid boss that lives a lot. Excuse me, that lives a lot longer. So once again, don't send your Bloodthirst without. Like I said, don't send your Bloodthirst without your Reckless Abandon Bloodbath proc. I still recommend going Dancing Blades over Titanic Rage. This will increase the damage of your Odin's Fury and grant you stacks of Whirlwind, but because we're running Annihilator, we're going to realistically be using Whirlwind a lot anyway in our Mythic Plus rotation. And because of that, there's no real need to... there's just no real need to focus on giving yourself Whirlwind stacks in like a burst window when you're going to be pressing the Whirlwind button anyway, right? Whirlwind already does a decent amount of damage, and we're buffing it here, and it's crit damage, so that's realistically where we're sitting. These are going to be our... This is going to be your Mythic Plus setup. There is a set... This is my personal preference as far as the Mythic Plus setup is concerned. If you look at the Wowhead guide by Archimetros, he will recommend, instead of running Intimidating Shout, going down here and running Shockwave instead. For most people in most content, that's probably going to be for the better for them. I am prioritizing maxing my damage potential at all times, so I am not focused on Shockwave. And because I trust my teammates to have good stops, honestly, if the dungeon design requires all 5 people to constantly use their AoE stops correctly, it's too much. So we do have an AoE stop here. It is target capped at 5 yards, but you can always guarantee the target you're focusing is going to be the one that you are going to be CCing anyway. So make sure you're targeting you're targeting the correct target when you use this in a pack of monsters, right? But other than that, that is it. Like I said, I actually don't even have any more loadout slots at all. But in the description, basically, if I was to do like what it'll look like for this one, it'll say T31 Mythic Plus : underneath it in its own line, it'll have the code for it, and then underneath that, it'll say T21 no tier : and then space under that, and that's just kind of how I'm gonna for you, so it's easier for you to see. But yeah, someone suggested I do this so you guys can have this on hand for reset. And happy hunting, good luck on the loot, and I hope you guys get your 18 to 20 vaults to be prepared for the week after. Enjoy the raid, enjoy the patch. I know I will. Have a good one. Peace.